Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner studio, and with me today is Sheriff Mark Butler. Mark is going to talk a little bit about human trafficking. There's a movie on called Sounds of Freedom, The Sound of Freedom, or Sound of Freedom. And it's playing at the downtown theater, and we recommend everyone see it. It's a little, maybe dark is the word?
Well,
or it takes you out to, I was talking to Vicki Cook about it, and she watched it. She said it took her a day to let it all to process.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the movie, what you know about it, or the concept of it.
I really haven't had the time to see it yet, but I do know of Tim Ballard, and I've followed his career. Him and I were working in the same circles, roughly around the same time, and some of my good friends in HSI were like, "Hey, Mark, you really need to hook up with Tim Ballard," and of course our directions went a little differently. We were developing, I was working with Dino May Productions on the casting to help do a movie on human trafficking to get it out. We were trying to get it, and we still are, to the Thorn Foundation, which of course Ashton Kutcher is huge. He's the co-founder, and he's been a huge advocate, trying to get it out.
Sure.
So instead I went towards trying to teach law enforcement officers local how to identify human trafficking, and then how to go after it. He was working more against the crimes against children, and he stayed in that realm. And I'll tell you, Tim Ballard is a true hero in my book.
Right. He's a former agent at the
HSI.
Yeah. Department of Homeland Security. Right.
Yeah, he's had an amazing career, and you have to look at it. He stepped away from everything to really try to make a difference. And that's one guy that I can truly say has gone all in.
Right.
And a lot of people are not aware that human trafficking is literally right underneath them or surrounded by them.
Yeah,
and
that happens right under your nose, and you really don't see it.
You do. I mean, it does, and you don't see it. And I work more on the smuggling aspect of it. My thought process is this. Same with drugs or anything else. You get the leads on the street, the interdiction by interdiction, and then you go after the smuggling rings at the highest of level. And it worked for us. We got leads from Warren County, an actual town of Front Royal police officer. I took that lead and actually turned it into about 7 years of chasing human trafficking.
This is when you worked at Herndon.
Correct, as a task force officer with HSI. Here's human trafficking is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And Tim Ballard has dedicated his entire adult career to do that. And this movie everyone should go see, and it's playing at the Royal Cinemas, and I definitely plan on seeing it soon. And I know some people that are trying to get myself and Tim Ballard hooked back up. I know the movie casting they're trying to make into I just got contacted by Dino, and he wants to make that movie into instead of a movie,
TV series, like a limited editions. Yeah, that's a big thing now. It's like a movie's not long enough to tell the story.
Correct.
So there's a lot of movies out. I've just been watching some 8 episodes, 6 episodes, and they're basically, it's a long movie.
It is.
That broke up into sections. And
it's not just this culture or this ethnicity. It is every ethnicity since the beginning of time has its own criminal element, and it's been happening across the world this isn't nothing new. Mm-hmm. This is modern day slavery, and we really aren't putting it out there and teaching it. So that's why I started many years ago 3D training and consulting, and I've taught it all over many states. Majority in Florida. Mm-hmm. I've taught all the highway patrol investigations and so forth. But and then we branched off and tried to show elements of how to identify it.
Yeah.
Started teaching those classes. We even brought it here. That's where we did the Interdiction and Organized Crime Conference to raise money for the K-9 for the Front Row Police Department. How many years ago was that? 2017, 19.
Right.
So it's been a passion of mine since 2006, 2007. And so I've spent almost 20 years doing the same.
Right.
But Tim Ballard, my hat is off to him, and he should be, the work that he's done, he is a legend, and, it's just incredible that at least someone got to see through his eyes, because it will tear your family up. It'll tear your whole world up. And just having to see it every single day, it's something that will never go away.
Mm-hmm.
So
we've had these issues right here in Front Royal.
You have. We do have them.
And it's ongoing.
Well,
because you catch one person and then someone else. It's kind of like drugs. It's like, how's the war on drugs doing? It's like it'll never end.
Well, think about it. I mean, if you put a kilo of cocaine underneath the front seat of someone's car, the dog's going to sniff it. But if you put a child that doesn't speak English in the back seat, no one's going to think anything of it.
Yeah.
Right? So you truly, they have that motto of hidden in plain sight. It's truth. And law enforcement has not been trained to the best that it could. I've spoke to congressmen. I've spoke to a lot of people trying to push this forward. I spoke to Lieutenant Governor Sears about this. I'm still trying to push it at the highest of levels to get law enforcement more trained on it. I know we're trying to teach our agency to go further. And I think we're going to continue to do so. I've been asked recently to see if we can't put some classes on for the community. Because right now, social media the way social media has taken off and just grown and grown and grown, and the people on social media are younger and younger and younger. We're having they can become prey very easily, and a trafficker can just sit back, like I mentioned to that one individual that interviewed me over the phone. A trafficker can sit back and groom and groom and groom until it just falls right in their lap.
Right, and they can do hundreds of people at the same time. Yeah, we've had several cases here recently, maybe not for human trafficking, but solicitation of children all comes over the computer. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we keep moving forward. We keep trying to fight it and not just say, hey, well, it doesn't happen in our area. The class that I used to teach was in your backyard. And a lot of officers, when you start to show them and say, hey, let's go here, and I'll show you that it's happening, it opens their eyes and like, wow. But then you have higher figureheads in law enforcement that you just don't know what you don't know. And unfortunately, that's where law enforcement is a lot of times, is you don't know what you don't know, and all you've been taught is this one thing for the longest of time. You almost think it's because you never hear of. Yeah, it's funny because when I remember the first time I ran, and people said, "Yeah, this guy didn't do international undercover operations,"
right?
And I was like, "No, I really did," And oh no, it never happened. But people don't understand is when you're doing undercover operations, very few people even know what you're doing. I had a handler.
That's why it's called undercover, isn't it?
I had a handler, and my handler pretty much. I had a great case agent too, probably one of the smartest law enforcement investigators I've ever seen. Worked hand in hand with me, and my handler ended up going to Guadalajara, Mexico for HSI, and being the assistant SAC there. Now is the assistant SAC in Puerto Rico. And he just came back in town recently, and we met up again after 10 years. And the things that we're able to, talk about, very few people even knew we did, from kilos of cocaine to truckloads of marijuana to green cards that were $65,000 apiece.
Isn't that amazing? The money that changes hands over that, and like you say, it's like right under your nose.
It is all right under your nose, and you know, I've had a blessed career. I say that every time I get on here. I've had a blessed career, and I've been fortunate enough to have people support me, like the former chief of Herndon, Toussaint Summers. I actually went to North Carolina, and he asked me, he was putting on a symposium in North Carolina for I think it's the North Carolina Intelligence Briefing or whatever, and I was teaching human trafficking to a standing only class of probably about 150 people, and he was sitting in there, and they asked why I wasn't doing human trafficking anymore. And I said, "You're gonna have to ask him. He's the one that left Herndon." But you know, it's if they don't know it, people don't know it's out there, they'll literally walk right by it. And I mentioned this in that interview. Some people don't even know they're being smuggled until you actually sit down and look at it, because it could be coerced. If you can't find a victim and you can't get the victim to agree, then all you have is possible smuggling. So that's why we focused on going after the smuggling routes to get to the snakeheads or the coyotes and so forth across the Mexican border.
It's kind of like the way you handle the drug situation. You know, we always complain about, well, the dealers get arrested every day, but why aren't we getting to the guys higher up the chain?
Well, and I think
the smuggling the same way. It's hard to identify who these people are.
We, over the past 3 years, the sheriff's office has attacked the drugs the same way. We are doing the interdiction, and we are going after getting the informants and the sources to go after the people that are smuggling it in, so we can shut it off before it ever gets to our county. Some of my people who are assigned to these task force, who I will not mention their names, and hopefully not too many others do, they've brought huge cases to the area and large seizures, and we've taken a lot of drugs off the street, and I'm very proud of the hard work that they're doing. So we're using the same model as I used to infiltrate organized crime units in the past.
Yeah. Well, we want to encourage people to go see this movie.
Please go see the movie.
Yeah, because it'll really open your eyes to what's going on. Actually, worldwide, it's not just in America. It's
worldwide.
Every country. It's every country.
It is.
And we don't really realize it, and the money that's involved with that, and I think that's just...
Well, think about this, Mike. Just and this was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, if someone came into the country illegally, right, they would need to get some sort of status. So asylum is one of the very first things that they look for. So there's a company in New York City that I set out and did about 36 hours of surveillance as my CI went into this business. An individual from Northern Virginia went to New York into the business, and we had many businesses tied into this. And he had to pay $35,000 to help build an asylum case, right? And $35,000. That's like you going to a hotel saying, "Hey, for $12,000, I can get you a driver's license."
Right.
That happens too, by the way. But there's fraudulent documents is the keyhole to a lot of these, and
it's kind of like counterfeiting, isn't it?
Counterfeiting's huge. Anything and everything that's worth something is being counterfeited some way. And I laugh.
It's not just money; it's documents of all sorts. Green card, driver's license.
Well, think about it. Like I love guitars, right? So Fender did it smart. Fender said, "Okay, y'all gonna counterfeit our Fenders? We'll just make them in Mexico. We'll put a factory there, and we'll sell them as Mexican guitars from Mexico or Korea, and we'll sell them cheaper than.
And you can make them off.
Right. So you look at Bose and everything else. And,
Sure.
Counterfeits.
They devalued their own product.
Exactly. They put a devalue on it, which gave it a place in the market for $100. And then if you get a true American, Fender, you're looking $800 or more. There's a lot of things involved. We were 3D was working with a company at one time doing intellectual properties, and we were looking to get the containers for Microsoft 365 when it was on disks, and we were working a deal to bring the containers in and build the case, and then we turn it over to HSI. That kind of fell through, didn't really work out because the government decided not to assist on intellectual properties like they were going out and assisting before. You've been seeing it all over your whole life of bootleg movies. Don't record and this and that. But the intellectual properties unit for HSI out of California is one of the forefronts. And now they have subcontracted it out to different people for Nike and so on and so forth. Jerseys, football jerseys. Sure.
Big thing. Big money.
There's big money in it. And not many people are even going to know the difference between a real Coach purse and a fake Coach purse.
Well, again, I can say we've had that right here in Front Royal.
We do have it here. But I really suggest Sounds of Freedom because Tim Ballard is a true legend. He is a true hero. And some people are trying to get us hooked up right now to meet up and work on some things. So we'll see where that goes.
Right. We want to encourage people to see it because, like you say, it's something that's happening.
It'll open your eyes.
It'll open your eyes. It's happening right under your nose. Thanks, Sheriff. Appreciate you coming in again.
Appreciate it.
And we'll come back to see you again. We appreciate it. But there's a lot of stuff happening, and he's been building his website up, and we've been complaining about it, but it's gradually getting better. So you have got a lot done. You got reports and the transparency. It's coming forward. It's just something you can't do overnight.
Well, speaking of the website, one of the reasons why we haven't really dove into, since you told me about the complaint you had, is the county is trying to work up a whole new platform,
right?
And we're like, well, why spend all this time and money and energy?
They're going to put it all together and make one,
right? And which I hope they do, and I think it'll be.
Yeah.
But I also know it's extremely costly, and I don't know that I have that in my budget.
Right.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see how much goes over in the county. But it is cool, though. You can go in and see about accidents and incidents and also a lot of tons of other information on there. You can just look them through. But it's great. It's a step in the right direction.
It's been a very, very busy last few months with the accreditation, the CCPC, getting ready for school to start.
Which, and by the way, is like next week.
Yeah, and making sure we have all the people to come in. We're going back through the MOUs, making sure we have our 9 schools covered like the MOU requires, and filling those spots to have SROs in every school.
Sure.
That's been a huge push. It's just been difficult, though. You get an SRO that's hurt, sick, or whatever, you really don't have someone to automatically to replace them because they have special training.
Right.
But, we're getting there, and we think we'll be ready. We believe we'll be ready by time school starts and everything else. And we have some very outstanding deputies getting out of the academy and coming off FTO right now. And then we have 5 more in the academy we're really happy for. So everything's looking good.
Good. Well, like I said, we want to encourage people to see this movie because
Sounds of Freedom.
Sounds of Freedom. It's playing at the Royal Cinemas and other places around the area too.
Go to Royal Cinema.
Yeah, we want to keep it local. But stuff like this happens under our nose, and I think we need to have it brought to our attention. And again, it goes back to community policing. Maybe we might see something one day that can, help the situation out.
Well, 100% human trafficking is real. I've spent almost 18 years going and trying to combat it. And it is real. And go see the movie, because it will open your eyes, and it's not me telling you.
Right.
It's actually others. And that's why I'm so glad this movie came out.
Yeah, it's great. Appreciate it, Sheriff. Thanks so
no
much.
problem.